minute. Okay, and Mayor, you could start.
Welcome everyone to the regular Board of Trustees meeting for Tuesday, June 8th, 2021. Is there a motion to open the meeting? Trustee Patino, second trustee Nell, all in favor. Meeting is officially open. I'd like to welcome everyone to our meeting. The instructions on how to view this meeting and participate have been posted online and are part of the agenda. Can we please do the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge of allegiance
To the flag.
to the flag
of America, and to the republic which it stands,
for which
one
it
nation,
stands,
under
one
God,
nation,
indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
justice. Okay, so getting to our agenda, the first item are presentations, and our first presentation is regarding the Historical Society's request for a 2021 Road to Freedom. I don't know, Alyssa or Jen, is there anybody here from the Historical Society to talk about it?
I don't see the boar cows. Is there anybody else here from the Historical Society? I don't see anyone, Mayor.
Okay, so we have gotten emails from the, I guess, Ms. Borkow regarding the Road to Freedom March. I think last year it was not done because of the restrictions placed upon us by COVID-19. This year, I think it's been agreed to put it to October 17th, 2021. So we do have a proclamation that we will issue to the Historical Society. I just very quickly, I can't show it, but we do have a proclamation that, and I'll just read it quickly. It says, whereas the Village of Dobbs Ferry commends all those persons retracing the steps of this Continental Army through the Village of Dobbs Ferry on this day, therefore be it resolved that in recognition of the 240th anniversary of the March of the Continental Army from the Village of Dobbs Ferry to the American victory at the Battle of Yorktown in Virginia, which led to the end of the Revolutionary War, the mayor and trustees of the Village of Dobbs Ferry declare Sunday, October 17th, 2021 as Road to Freedom Day in the Village of Dobbs Ferry. So it's always a great historical event, and I'm looking forward to it again this year, and we will get that proclamation out to the Historical Society. I want to thank Liz for that wonderful proclamation, and thank you, Liz, and I'm sure you'll get it out. I know they've cleared that with the chief of police and I think fire department as well. So that's going to be clear and taken care of. So thank you, and we're looking forward to it. Our second presentation is a presentation by the Sustainable Westchester on the performance of Dobbs Ferry's Community Choice Aggregation Program and overall municipal performance in renewable energy. Is there anybody here to speak to that?
Yes, I'm just promoting Dan Welsh to a panelist. Dan, can you hear us?
Okay. Great. I guess I'm on now.
Yes.
You are.
Very
Okay.
good. Hi, everybody. Thanks for giving us some time. I'm here, and my colleague Paul is here somewhere in the cybersphere, I guess. If I could, I'll share my screen, which I can do. That's great. Okay. And I know you guys have got a lot to do, so I'll bounce through this fairly quickly. You know, we do have an obligation under the regs to go out and make sure that people are aware of what the program is up to. And of course, just as a matter of good practice. So we come by from time to time. Thanks for making a little time for us. You know, Sustainable Westchester, of course, Dobbs Ferry has been a member for a long time. It's a shared service hothouse for creating programming that allows the member municipalities to help forward their sustainability goals. Our programming tends to fall in these buckets. Energy is a big one, but of course, once we have the green energy, we want to use it more, and that's the electrification stuff, grid efficiency. Dobbs residents are very familiar with some of the programming. You can run some great campaigns on that. And of course, it wouldn't be sustainable without waste programs. The Westchester Power Program is the bulk electricity program, and it's about being proactive instead of just taking whatever comes along. We get together, we buy our supply in bulk, we buy green supply, we set the criteria, and then it becomes a medium also for education and for continued advocacy for clean energy. And of course, advancing our climate goals is the ultimate goal. And Dobbs is very familiar, of course, with how the activity in this area can help secure grants under the various New York State programs. We're up to 28 municipalities now. We added Tuckahoe in February, so we're happy about that. And actually, just recently, Yonkers has completed all the work to be approved by the Department of Public Service to come in. So that's a big milestone for us. So about 115,000 residents and small business is now on the program. And of course, ultimately, it's about this. It's about the carbon mitigation, and the countywide numbers are quite significant. And Dobbs Ferry, of course, is one of many municipalities, but they're starting to have an impact as well, with over 10,000 tons mitigated. And to make that sort of real to people, the EPA has their conversion calculator to show what the equivalents are in things that people actually understand. So that's about 2,300 cars taken off the road. So it's very significant. We always like to point out that the hydro facilities that we secure our power from are nice places. they when you compare it to kind of gas-fired generators, and this, if you go visit these places, they're typically in the parks and reservoirs and whatnot. So it's not only clean on our end, but it's clean on their end, which is kind of nice. Overall, then the program's benefits, it's an administered program, so you're not out by yourself in the kind of Wild West world of the energy suppliers. You get the cost control element through these long-term contracts. There's a public bidding process, and that's open, and we do it on an online platform where we'll talk about that in a little bit. And importantly, there's the local office support, which sometimes is as valuable as any other piece of the program, because we get calls about all kinds of stuff, and people need help with their bills and all that, and in trying to understand their bills. And we have Spanish language capabilities. Paul, again, my colleague who's on the phone, is often in touch with Spanish speaking Westchester residents, and of course running workshops out in the municipalities to help get out the word about the program, and also just generally educate people about energy. And of course, again, ultimately, it's about mitigating climate change. So we just started a new contract in January, and these are the rates for that new contract. The contract goes until the middle of next year, in 2022, the end of June. So the renewable rate, 7.41 cents. All the villages and the cities add their 1% GRT tax, so it's a trifle over that when you see it on your bill. And small commercial this time actually got a little bit of a break versus the residential is about 1/3 of a cent less than that. And again, I mentioned the bidding process. This is how we do it. Since the last 2 rounds, we've adopted an online reverse auction platform. It's quite exciting. I would urge any of the board members who are interested the next time around, you can actually sit in on it And it's kind of fun, especially at the end, where if there's a bid within the last minute, they kick it out again, and it keeps going. So it's kind of fun, but it does squeeze the last tenth of a cent out of those prices. And here you've seen these graphs before, but here's the updated one, and I'll move you guys out of the way so I can see it. And so you see where the new contract is started. Everybody knows the last contract we got slammed pretty good after the contract was signed. The COVID and all the rest of the economy going down, gas prices going down. So we were behind the utility prices. The straight line is the straight two lines are our prices, of course, the fixed prices, and the one that's slightly higher is the renewable. But you can see since January, we're starting to see some upward movement on the Con Ed side. And that's not surprising, although every time we look at these prices, I have to raise my hand and say, we can't predict what next month's price will be. It's a variable rate with the utility. So, but we're hopeful. And the commercial rate looks pretty much the same in terms of that relative position versus the utility. We also want to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples, because what we just saw is comparing to the non-renewable utility product. And if you go now to the New York Department of State's Power to Choose site, and you plug in, I want a 1-year contract or a 2-year contract. We're a year and a half, so they don't have a year and a half up there, but plug in 12 months and a fixed rate and 100% renewable. You see the rates are popping up over 8 cents, and the prices are rising. So this is indicative of where things are going. And since we're locked in at 7.41, we think we're in a pretty good position in terms of what's out there in the market. This is taking those rates and then looking at, we pulled the median account. That's to say that half of the Dobbs Ferry accounts use more electricity than this and half use less. We figured that was a good place to have a representative look at what the rates translate to relative, again, to the Con Ed pricing. Again, not the same kind of product, but it is a benchmark that we have to look at. And you'll see that that recent contract, the current contract since January, the renewable rate relative to the Con Ed's rate is still slightly behind. It costs you about $1.74 a month more. If you decide to opt down to the standard product, maybe you need to be looking at your budget in every place you can, and some people do that. And if they call us, we can move them into that right away. You're actually a little bit ahead of the utility at this point for this contract. Then you'll see the obviously the rates for contract 2. Again, we're quite tough, and if you extend that, averaging it out, we're still a little bit behind. That should be a negative 669, I'm sure, on the on that since launch on the standard. Sorry, missing the parentheses there. And this is the same relative trend for the commercial accounts. The median account being smaller. These are small mom and pop operations, non-demand meter accounts. So it looks fairly similar. Of course, you guys are very familiar with the enhanced programming that is built on top of all this. I've been running campaigns with tremendous success. It was fun to watch Dobbs Ferry go at it. A lot of people signed up for community solar and making significant savings on their bill. And we've been telling you for some time that the community solar is going to be integrated into the program in a way that allows us to provide it on an opt-out basis in the same way we do the supply. So people get a notification letter, they can opt out. I don't know why you want to opt out of sort of free money, but the PSC, the Public Service Commission, requires this process. So they get an opt-out letter, and then they can roll right in. We don't, in Con Ed territory, there's not as much solar as there is up north. So we don't anticipate to be able to provide this to every resident right from the start. So we're going to focus on the low-income customers in the Con Ed zone first. And we're very much looking forward to that. We're putting together all the documentation that the Public Service Commission requires for that. We have to update our implementation plan. We will be coming to Dobbs Ferry and all the rest of the participants to update your enabling law. If you remember way back when we started the CCA program, all the municipalities that wanted to participate had to establish an enabling law to declare your home rule authority and be able to establish a CCA program. And since that was based around electricity supply only and didn't refer to these what they call CDG credits, the community distributed generation credits, we need to update that so the opt-out scope can include those CDG credits. So the team is working on those now, vetting them, working with Pace Law School actually, and vetting them with the DPS. And so it won't be long before we'll be coming to you with the draft of that and the rest of the documentation. Again, just another example of the programming that's built on top of this. This is the Grid Rewards Demand Response Program. I believe Dobbs' response to that offering was quite amazing. And we've got a lot of people signed up to that. And this is where a residential customer in the 3 or 4 peak events that happen during the summer, if they've signed up, they get a notice. And during those 4-hour peak periods, if they reduce their electric consumption, they can actually get paid for that, and significant amounts. In the pilot last year, people were earning anywhere from like $100 to $300 for participating in those several events. So that's kind of fun. And it's also a real impact because it does reduce the reliance on these dirty peaker plants that they have to flip on when we're running into those peaks. Again, the contract isn't up until next year. So there's no, half the time we come to you, we're like in a rush. There's a schedule and we have to do all these things, but we have a little bit of space. You will be starting that new RFP process will be next spring. So there's no immediate need to be thinking about that. And in the meantime, of course, we'll continue our outreach. This is part of that. But as things open up, we'll be doing more of the types of things that we used to do out in the communities and visiting various community groups and holding workshops and whatnot. And of course, we continue to accumulate various digital media that are available on our website and are always available if someone is interested for us to come and visit with any particular group. We'd love to have to be called upon to do that. And that's basically the update. I hope that was helpful, but certainly open to any questions that anybody has.
Thank you, Dan. That was very informative. And yes, we've always been involved with you guys, and it's always good to know how the residents are doing going forward. We'd be sure of following up with you. Great.
And we provided the slides. I think you can post them on the website or something, as you know, if people want to come back to them. And of course, you know, anytime anybody has any questions, just let us know. We're there.
Does anybody else from your group want to talk? I see the least Paul's there. Paul, do you want to speak at all?
Nothing really to say. Just keep up the great work, Dobbs Story. You guys are doing an amazing job, and we look forward to providing the opt-out integrated consolidated billing with community solar to really make sure that that's available to as many residents as possible.
I'm sure you'll be seeing Paul. He's going to be our front end for a lot of outreach that we're going to be doing, and be out there working in the communities. So you'll get to know him well.
Great. Well, welcome, Paul. And we did beat Hastings and Irvington and Ardsley, even though they had a little bit of sour grapes going on there. We did beat them, and we haven't called in the bet yet, but we will. So, but thank you for all the support that you did. So thank you very much.
A little bit of competition is not a bad thing, and but I'm sure you have to watch yourself because they're pretty eager also.
Well, I know we have the numbers. We have volume.
All right. Good to
Thank
see
you, guys.
everybody. Thanks much. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Yep. Bye now.
Okay, moving on. We're going to go to our public hearing agenda item number 1, which is a continuation of a public hearing to discuss opportunities for funding of eligible projects under the 2021 Community Development Block Grant Program, and to solicit public input as to the needs of the community and potential projects to be considered further by the board. I know that we held this meeting, we had a public hearing at the last Board of Trustee meeting, and we held it open for today so that we could get comments from people, written comments. I don't believe we have gotten any written comments. Liz, did you receive any written comments, or Alyssa, did you receive anything regarding it? No. Okay, so based upon that, I'm going to take a motion to close the public hearing.
So Mayor,
And
before
then
you
we-
do that, Mayor, if I can just offer a couple of comments, we made, based on the comments that the Board of Trustees had made and some of the priorities that you had mentioned, we made a couple of changes to the proposals. Amongst them is in Gould Park, we added pathways so they'd be able to get from the playground to the stairs and vice versa, et cetera. And Kendra also was able to go through and fine tune some of the figures. So before you close the public hearing, we just want to present that information to you, and then I have some additional comments before you actually make a motion. So
But wait,
Wait.
they've got to close the public hearing from last meeting, and then they'll open the meeting today, the public information meeting, and then you can make the presentations and get the public hearing was held open. They need to close that, and then they open the public informational meeting today. I know it's a little wonky. It just because the county wanted us to hold two separate meetings. So close the hearing, open the meeting, and then we can make the presentations and you can present the budget and the projects.
well, I was trying to have them review the proposals as amended, and we were hoping to come to a consensus based on that, which then be shared at the
But-
public informational session, so they have an opportunity to hear that. But I defer to you.
Okay, so you want to present it during the hearing, then close the
Yes.
hearing, and then open the meeting and present it again?
Yes.
Okay, great.
So if Kendra is
Okay.
here, perhaps she can fill us in on the changes that she's made. I don't see her here. Lisa?
She's here. I'm just promoting her right now.
Oh, sorry, Jen.
Okay. Kendra, can you hear us?
You're on mute, Kendra.
I can hear you.
can
Kendra, do you
hear
want me
you
to
now.
share my screen?
I can share mine.
Okay.
Give me 1 second.
So Kendra, you heard my comments about adding the pathway to the Gould Park and also the updated figures
Yeah.
on the two projects. Thank you.
So I know that everybody's heard this before, but we're going to go through it again. So here are the two recommendations that we had for the CDBG grant 2021 through 2024 cycle. So the first one is the Memorial Park spray pad. And that was the replacement of this old outdated pool that is currently covered for our ice rink. This is a rendering of it. Some of the features that would be in it. There's an updated picture of what it would look like in the park. There's another view of it. And then here is the updated estimate. So as you can see, we added some additional money for like a soft surface. And then also the equipment had gone up. So the total now is $322,000. Then the next project is the Gould Park storm surge. The pictures. And then here's the picture that Richard was referring to about the pathways. So in here, the idea would be to add these paths right here to the grant. And then here is the updated estimate. It's $242,000. And I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has any. No? Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you, Kendra.
You're welcome.
So at this point, we have a couple things we need to discuss. First of all, the recommendation from the administrative side is that these two projects be submitted to CDBG for their review and approval. But obviously it's up to you all. If you want to, submit these two, or if you want to modify them or suggest some other alternative. Time is running. So that would be the first thing. What projects do you want to submit? The second one would be, it's a 3-year cycle, so you can identify one for 2022, one for 23, and or one for 24. And the third thing is the county wants to know if you have one particular project that is your most, the most favorite, the one that you feel the strongest about. As I wrote in a memo to you all, our recommendation is that these 2 projects be submitted. If you want to make modifications, you can do that. And we would suggest, because of the situation, that the Gould Park project be submitted for calendar year 2022 and the Spray Park be submitted for 2023. So it's up to you all. If we can come out of this public hearing with a decision, then we can bring it to the next part, which is give the community an opportunity to be heard on the projects.
And just to be clear, Richard, this is a match from the community, from the village?
Right, it is. I think it's 50-50, right, Elisa? Yeah.
Okay, so am I keeping this, are we gonna make it, am I closing this meeting, the public hearing now, or am I allowing the public to speak at this public hearing? Laura Lee.
If you have if you can reach a consensus in terms of how you would like to go forward, then at the next segment, the public information meeting, they can speak to the program, to the projects you've decided to move forward on.
Okay, well, I'll start it off then. I'm fine with the administration's recommendations. I like the plans, and I think you lay out a cogent reason for doing for both and the timing of both. So I'm fine with going with your recommendations. Anybody else?
I agree.
Me too.
I agree.
I also agree. I would like to make some comments about the Gould Park stair, but we can get to that down the road.
Cole?
I agree.
Donna? Okay, let the record show Donna shook her head yes.
I was muted. I'm sorry. I said yes. Yes, I'm fine.
Okay, so we have a consensus then to do what you suggested, Richard.
Do you have is there a project that coming out of this that you find that you would like to identify as your most favored of the 2? The county likes that information. If it's
a hard choice, but if I had to make a choice, I would prioritize Gould Park just because of the sort of somewhat urgent issue to resolve the potential for another problem storm surge.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. Plus, we also need the access from Ashford Avenue. I think that would be a big help.
I don't
I
disagree,
agree.
but I'm concerned about what. I don't disagree, but I'm concerned about what Fiona said at the last meeting, that the Gould Park project isn't a project that the county typically likes. And I don't know what Kendra or Richard, what are our chances that neither one of them gets approved if we prioritize Gould Park over the spray pad, or does it really not matter? Can I stump both of you?
I didn't catch that as a question. Sorry, it broke up a little bit. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I said I'm concerned about what Fiona said about the county not liking projects like Gould Park as much as spray pads. And if we prioritize Gould Park over the spray pad, are we limiting our chances of getting the grant money?
I think they want to see a preference. So you can submit them both without a preference, but I think they're looking for a preference.
No, I get that, but if we preference Gould Park, are we limiting our chances of getting the grant because of what Fiona said about them, preferring projects like the spray pad than clean up like what we need to do at Gould Park?
I don't know the answer to that. I can say that I think Gould Park has been made a little more attractive by the addition of the paths, and it's in the target area. So it's kind of taking a little bit away from just the drainage project and putting a little more towards the park project. Plus the access is for the entire community is huge and it's in the proper area.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
So far, 3 people have said they favor Gould. Anybody else?
If that's based on Richard's comment just now, I would favor Gould.
Christie?
I mean, it's just, I don't want to not get the spray pad because that's, you know, we've gotten money to help Gould Park and we need money to help a different part of town that different people might use because it's at Memorial Park. And so I'd probably push for the spray pad so that we improve a different part of town's access to things they can do and cool off in the summer. And a free thing they can use, which I guess the playground is too. So yeah, I'd say the spray pad.
Okay. Laura?
As much as I would like to see the development done in Memorial Park, I do understand the importance of protecting the investment of the pool. So I really would like to see that as a priority, but I know that our chances are bigger with the Memorial Park project.
Okay. And Nicole, I wasn't sure how you came out on that.
Yeah, I wasn't probably either. I think Christy makes really good points, you know, but I want us to finish a project. I like finish School Park and just have it be beautiful. We still have to do a lower Gould Park. You know, I hate leaving something half done, but yeah. I think you have 4 anyway without me, don't you?
You have 4 anyway, Nicole. Okay.
okay, so
the charge, we're going to
I'll only
prioritize the Gould Park.
Okay, I'll only bother you with one more question, then I'll leave you alone. There's some mixed philosophy or thought because so many communities are applying for year 1 and year 2, that if you push one over to year 3, you might have a better chance. It's something that Fiona brought up. And so it's just a question if you want to put year 2 over to year 3, or if you just want to leave it a year 1 and year 2.
What's year 3?
What's that?
What's year 3, 2024?
And in theory, year 3 is 2024.
Yeah,
in
year 2024, yeah.
And in theory, if you push it to year 3, you might get it because you're saying you don't need it until then?
No, I'm saying that everybody's hot to trot, right? They want their projects in year 1 and year 2. And year 3, sometimes there's less people applying for it, and or some projects don't work out and there's a couple of bucks left over. So that's just, it's sort of a twist. Honestly, the spray park's been already submitted once, so I think it's either gonna get it or it's not. So if I'm not a policymaker, but I'd probably just leave it at year 2, but I wanted to share that option with you and some of the thoughts.
And they don't ever come back and say, you can have that one in year 3. They just say, nope, or yes, that's it.
Yeah, you're applying for a particular year. So right now you're applying for Gould Park in 2022 and Memorial is 2023. So the only option is sometimes by the 3rd year, not everybody's applying for that. Some people are only applying once or twice, so it doesn't get that far. And so sometimes it looks a little favorable, but.
And you can't apply for Memorial Park in both. Be like,
no.
And 3.
Nice try. Come on.
They won't give it to us in both.
Come on. I didn't even think of that one.
Whenever I try to do something like this, it never works out for me. So I would keep it the way it is. But if you guys want to, if the majority wants to try for 2024, that's fine.
God, this feels like gambling. It's terrible.
It is. It's like.
So raise your hands if you feel like we should push it over to year 3. All right, no one's raised their hand. So Richard, we're going to do years 1 and 2.
Okay, I'm done.
Right, thank you. So now, Laura Lee, am I allowed to close this public hearing?
Mayor, I'm sorry,
Yes.
there's someone with their hand raised. I don't know. Are they allowed to talk? I don't know what we're doing.
Look, now
Yeah.
or later, Laura Lee? What's the rule, Laura Lee?
Well, it's a public hearing, and the purpose of the public hearing was to receive comments from the public on the needs of the community. So perhaps it's relevant to that single topic. And given the fact that they'll have a second chance at the next meeting to talk about these specified projects, but.
Well, the public information meeting, just to clarify, which is going to be opened in a minute, is to talk about the project. So if the comment is about the projects, that's for the public information meeting. And if it's about the needs of the community, it's for the public hearing.
Okay, put them on.
Okay. Can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is DeSanne Davis here. I have been a part of the Gould Park Playground Committee for the past several years, and I manage the gouldpark.com website that includes a form where people can comment and provide input about Gould Park and the upgrades that have been happening. So I just wanted to speak to the several emails that I've received from residents asking when the stairs will be added, that it significantly impacts their access to the park. And then also residents all around the park or all around town who are concerned that they can't patronize easily the commercial businesses on Ashford Avenue when they're at the park. And so those businesses have been hurting. And so I do think, I don't know, I mostly wanted to speak in support of the Gould Park stairs and happening in year one as addressing those needs of the community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've also gotten a lot of emails and comments about the same thing, about the importance of the stairs to them and to the businesses. So. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak?
No, Mayor.
Okay. Is there a motion to close the public hearing? Trustee DeRozzi, second. Trustee Patino, all in favor? The public hearing is now closed. Let's move on to the public information meeting. I need a motion to open that public information meeting. Trustee Sullivan, second. Trustee Patino, all in favor? The public information meeting is now open. So we've heard about the projects. Is there anybody who wants to comment about the projects?
Don, can you hear us?
I hear you. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Don Maricol speaking. I just wanted to, I can't stay for the meeting very long, but I just wanted to make a couple comments. Number one, as you know, every year for the last few years, you've appointed me as a CDBG representative for the village. And I just wanted to clarify what that means. What that really means is that I have to sign off on the application. Not that I support the application or I like the application or dislike the application. Basically, I'm signing off ensuring the application and the county that you have met the public input requirements, public information, which you're doing now, obviously, and I think you're gonna do one more time. So I wanted to make that clear. And now as a resident, I also just want to mention that I think both projects are really good projects and I support both of them. So that's aside from me being my representative. Just now, that's just being a village resident. So congratulations on the projects and I look forward to that happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Anybody else?
Yes. Clay, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Just a question. This is Clay Kaminsky. I was wondering, does the village have if we were fortunate enough to receive both grants, does the village have the funds available to post the matching funds for the Gould Park stairs in year one and the splash pad in year two?
Yes, we do have that. And Jeff, maybe you want to speak to that a little?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of options for us to put the funding in place. Since it's in a future budget year, we can budget it, fund balance, you know, there's that, there's a number of ways to get that done. So yes.
Okay, for those of you who don't know, Jeff is the village treasurer. So thank you, Clay, for that question.
And Clay, does he need to state his address for the record?
Can you still hear me?
Yes.
61 Maple Street.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
There's no one else.
Mayor, Mayor, if I can just comment that our office had received an email from a member of the traffic committee. There were two different suggestions. I think that were discussed over time. One of them is, I think this was discussed previously by the village about ramping in lieu of the stairs, but that would be functionally and mechanically very difficult, if not impossible. I've dealt with ramping projects. It takes up a huge amount of space. And the other one asked if some type of an accommodation could be made on the stairs in order to incorporate bikes or some other accessibility. We do not have the ability at this point or the knowledge to know exactly what that means financially or mechanically. So I don't think that it can be considered right now. Maybe it could be something that could be added, but I wanted to mention that because they had sent over an email.
I just want to mention
Thank you.
that the school had, am I unmuted or am I, okay.
No, I hear you.
Okay, the school has a ramp like that, by the way. The school has a stairway that has a little thing for bikes to go up on. It's like a little channel. So that's probably what they're talking about. I don't know what difference that makes or how much more that would be, but that's when the mechanics are. If you look at the school, they have it there. Going to the Aqueduct Trail.
Okay, I guess we could take a look at it to get closer to it. Correct, Richard, or are we precluded from that?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's you'd have to have a whole. I don't know. I'm not an engineer, but it would seem to me you'd have to have a redesign, and also this stairs also incorporates drainage. So I'm not sure how that would interface with something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, if they biked around the other side of the park, they could get access that way also.
Yeah.
True.
Well, this raises an interesting point. I had some comments or really concerns about the stair design. I'm not sure who designed the stair, but I think it could use some improvement. And I think maybe when that gets looked at, we could look at the possibility of the bike element. I agree with Richard, a ramp for the height difference to make up is not feasible here without taking up a huge amount of space. And there is a accessible entrance just around the corner. Same thing for bikes, but I would, Kendra, I see you're here. I'm not sure when or how the design came about, but if there's an opportunity before, sort of way ahead of time to look at this, that would be ideal rather than what we did last time, which is a little rushed.
Absolutely, I think there would be time to weigh in.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, so we have to adjourn this anyway to the next meeting. So in order to have a resolution, is that correct, Laura Lee?
Yes, if there's a consensus to move forward in this fashion on these two projects, then yes, if you could call for a resolution, complete resolution to be drafted, which has to include seeker elements and has to include LWRP elements and many elements that are sort of outside the scope of tonight's discussion. So an adjournment would be helpful, and we'll draft that for you.
So there seems to be a consensus. So is there a motion to adjourn this meeting to the next Board of Trustee meeting? Trustee Sullivan, second Trustee Patino, all in favor? Okay, the meeting is so adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your input. Moving along to our next public hearing, which is agenda item number 3. It's a public hearing on the proposed zoning code and map amendments recommended by the planning board. Is there a motion to open this public hearing? Trustee Taylor, second. Trustee Patino, all in favor? Okay, the public hearing is now open. We were presented with this, I think, on a prior meeting on May 11th. And we adjourned it to today to have a public hearing so we can discuss it and the public would have an opportunity to comment on it. We have received a letter from the planning board which details the changes that they would like to make and the reasoning behind the changes that they would like to make. And now is an opportunity for the Board of Trustees to talk about it and for the public to talk about it. Richard, or are you able to expand upon this? Is there anybody, I don't think anybody from the planning board is here, but is there anybody who can expand upon it?
I mean, I think you received a copy of the proposal, the character guidelines. This is primarily, and there's also a memo that was sent over. It was evaluated by the prior planning firm. This pretty much provides for some zoning map changes in order to primarily on Palisades to make both sides of the street more consistent, to make new development be respectful and reflect the setbacks and some of the facade character that's already in place. It also has a zoning map change that would make the zoning consistent on both sides of the street instead of having a zoning line go up the middle. Also change some of the area in both, as I indicated, and also change the designation for one particular parcel that's sort of out of sync with the district that it's in. So primarily you're looking at facade and bulk and setbacks that will preserve the character and also make sure that future development on Palisades will reflect that which is already in being.
All right, so let's take this. I guess there are 3 things according to them, which is 1, a zoning map changes. So for the zoning map changes, it's to relocate the boundary between OF-4 and MDR-1 that currently run down the center of Maple Street. So from what I understand, and maybe Mike, you could even expand upon it further, but from what I understand, one half of Maple Street is zoned a certain way and the other half of Maple Street is zoned another way. It's right across the street from each other are different zones. And because of that, I think the minimum lot area in the MD1 district is 5,000 feet and the minimum lot area in the other district is 10,000 feet, which I think has made problems. So I think the Planning Board has thought it would be better to move that line just across the street to make that consistent with entire Maple Street. So does any of the Board of Trustees have any comments about that?
Yeah, one of the other things is that it was believed that the line was just drawn incorrectly. It was never meant to be there because the houses on the other side of Maple Street are the same as the houses on the other side of it. So it might have just been an error when it was being drawn, but it was supposedly meant to actually encompass the houses on both sides of Maple.
So are we as trustees, are we okay with that map change?
Yeah,
Okay.
I just like to say that the zoning districts are generally built to incorporate a neighborhood. And so I think there's a very different character on Maple Street than there is on Belden, for example. And for reasons which could be a mistake or just who knows, it doesn't really matter. But I think this is an important step in correcting and this zoning map. And the reason it's important is that when people come to the boards for approvals on projects in those areas, they're being held to a standard that's almost impossible for them to maintain. So if you have a house on, that occupies a large percentage of your lot, and that's allowed on one side of Maple Street, but not the other, it just makes your process an uphill battle and very difficult to achieve. And that's not really a fair thing to put neighbors through, given the character of the other side of the street. So this makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so addressing it one by one, are there anybody from the public who has a question or a comment about the changing of the map line on Maple Street? And Patty does, and Clay does. So let's hear from Patty.
Patty, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. As the person who actually drove over to the county to pick up the map that they drew and brought it back to the village administrator so that it could be shared with the trustees before they adopted the changes of the code in September 28th, 2010, I can attest to the reality that we knew then that they had made the mistake from where they drew the line. The line was supposed to be down South Lane, which is behind the houses on the north side of Maple Street, and they just got the line in the wrong place. So that was actually identified before the zoning was adopted. It was listed in the errata that was understood that needed to be changed. And, you know, it hasn't caused a problem because our building inspectors have known that. So they haven't, you know, made an issue of it. But with the rumors that in 10 or 15 years, you know, Ed might retire or something, you know, we probably want to make sure that our map is accurate. It should be down South Lane, not down Maple Street.
Thank you, Patty. Clay, would you like to speak?
Clay, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
So I live on the north side of Maple Street, between Maple and South Lane. My house is existing non-conforming, and I suspect because of the width of the lot is very narrow, will remain existing non-conforming. The only question I have is there any downside to this change to the people on my side of the street? Is it going to cause any problems? It sounds like it's not, and I just wanted to sort of confirm that.
In the majority of the cases, Mr. Comiskey, this is the village council. In the majority of cases of the properties being rezoned in this fashion, it will actually benefit them because their pre-existing nonconformities will go away, and they will now conform to the MDR1, which really was the intent all along. So the goal of zoning is not to create nonconformities, and so this actually fixes that.
Understood. I don't think it'll necessarily fix mine, but I think it will for many of my neighbors. And so understood. Thank you for that answer.
Thank you. Anybody else who wants to speak to the Maple Street issue only?
Don't see anyone else with their hand raised.
I just want to clarify for the purposes of the board that Liz and Jeff teamed together to actually acquire a list. So each and every property that's being rezoned by this map change was personally notified with a mailing. So they've been notified each and every parcel. So we went the extra yard to be sure that everyone understands the reasons for this and the ramifications of this. And it shows because Mr. Comiskey was here asking those very same questions.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for sharing that. That's important to know. Thank you. Let's move on to the next zoning map change then, and that's to rezone the property at the northwest corner of Rochambeau Avenue and Broadway from MDR 1 to B. And I think the reason for that is this really pertains to one structure, I understand, on Rochambeau that really, from its character, really should belong in the other district. So, I mean, I don't see any issue with it. I don't know if any other trustees have any other issues with it. Okay, having heard any, is anybody here who wants to speak to that one issue on Rochambeau?
There's nobody here, Mayor.
Okay, and then let's move to the zoning text change, which is to adopt the character guidelines for Palisade Street. I know that we were presented with a very interesting and informative guide as to what the guidelines would entail. I don't know if any of the other trustees have any other comments on that, or if we're willing to accept it. It was prepared by some members of the planning board and the AHRB, and I did a very thoughtful review of it, I believe.
Is this in addition to the existing design guidelines, or it's modifying something in those design guidelines?
I do not believe there were neighborhood guidelines for Palisade. This would be a separate set of guidelines, much like your downtown guidelines. It went sort of block by block by block with Palisades and provided examples of things to aspire to. So you're not doing things that are significantly dissimilar.
So this is yet another guideline. There is a downtown design guideline. There's a residential design guideline. There are the historic district guidelines, and now this Palisade Street guideline. I did have a meeting with Mr. Lane from the planning board, and we reviewed those guidelines. I made, we had a couple of sort of minor suggestions to improve them. I can't, it seems to me that the ones in our packet are from the previous meeting. I'm not sure if there was an update or if this is just what was in the packet was just carried over from the last meeting.
I actually attached the most latest version that was in my records. I couldn't seem to get an updated copy in time to get it to you in order to establish, you know, the baseline to get you going with this local law. I couldn't get the most recent version. This also has a typo on the last page. It misspells one of your planning board members' names. So this, of course, you can't close the hearing tonight. You haven't heard back from the county yet. So it will give us an opportunity right up to the point where you adopt them to be sure that what you have in front of you is true and correct and accurate with your intention.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. I will just say that on the whole, they are sensible and practical, and they will benefit Palisade Street. That's my take on these. The minor changes that I requested was maybe to strengthen them even slightly more in one element, or to clarify something that seemed somewhat equivocal to me. So I'd like to see that we add those to the document, and then the one we vote on at the next meeting have those two minor changes. And I'll speak with Mr. Lane, and I'll work with him to update the diagrams so that we can do that.
Okay,
Yeah, I want to point out that the guidelines, I think, are great for this area because it recognizes Palisade Street as a very special and unique section of our village, and will give it historical context. So I think it's great that they did this.
Okay, so if there are no objections to it, we'll just move on to the next area, which is the revisions of Appendix B and the dimensional tables. So from what I understand, they try to create a unified system where they expanded some of the areas to make it more consistent. Is that accurate?
Yes, actually, these were based upon the building inspector's recommendations directly to for consistency purposes, and as I understand it, also to correct some misperceptions and to be sure that that it is fully accurate with the zones that are changed based upon these changes.
So this does affect all MDR2 districts. This is not just Palisade Street. So this would affect Maple Street and some of the other areas that fall into the MDR2. For the most part, this is very similar to the zoning plan diagram that we looked at, where you know, essentially they are looking at bringing into conformance most of the properties, not all of them, because they'd have to go to some extremes to do that, but quite a significant number that are currently non-conforming. So again, I think this is pretty sensible. And then at the other end of the spectrum, there is some modifications to this that work on a sliding scale. So for much larger properties, you would not have a commensurate percentage of lot coverage. So, you know, for the most part, MDR2 district is very small. They're very small lots. And so a larger footprint is more sensible on those. But if a lot gets larger, if someone were to buy 2 or 3 or combine them, or use one of the few instances where there is a larger lot in the MDR2 district, they wouldn't be able to cover the same lot percentage. So as the lot gets bigger, the amount you can cover gets smaller, which again is a very sensible component of the code. I had a minor suggestion that there be some kind of cap to the overall buildable lot of lot coverage for residents. I think in some instances that could be useful. In others, it could, it could be problematic. I'm in favor of it, but it's not currently in this state.
Well, do you want to make it part of this, Mike, or?
Honestly, I brought it up tonight so that I could present it to the rest of the board as a potential up change to what's in here. I did discuss it with Mr. Lane, but not the rest of the planning board. He was sort of somewhat in agreement. We didn't come to any conclusion about it, but I thought it's worth us talking about. And what this would ultimately mean is that if someone were to put together, again, this isn't just for Palisade Street, so you shouldn't limit the thinking about it to that one street. But if someone were to put together multiple lots and build, they could potentially build a very, very large structure in a neighborhood where there aren't such large structures. We don't see that in Dobbs Ferry that often, but it does happen from time to time. There's a good example in Hastings. A resident put together several lots, built a very, very large structure. It so happens that it's very tasteful and quite nice and not visible from the street. So in that case, it's not potentially a problem. There are other communities where people have done this and it is a problem. They put a very large house in a neighborhood with relatively smaller houses. And what I'm talking about are 15,000 square foot building, houses in neighborhoods where there are 3,000 or 4,000 square foot houses. So it does happen, and it does create a lot of contention in communities when it does. And this would be a potential area to limit that.
So should we put it over for a month?
Cap.
What do you think? Should we put it over for a month, and maybe you can consult with the planning board and see how they feel about that change, or what's the thoughts?
I think I can consult with them in the interim over the next week and poll them and see if there are any strong arguments against it or for it, and get back to everyone here and either add that in as a one of the line items and we vote on it the next time.
Okay. So Lorelei, I'm going to adjourn this public hearing for 2 weeks.
Unless there are other members of the public available to speak, then you should adjourn it for 2 weeks. And if at that time you're not ready, then you can adjourn it further. But as long as you adjourn it to a date certain, you've covered yourself in terms of public notice. And again, your planner is going to weigh in on your seeker analysis, and also we are required by law to wait for the county's input on this because it is a zoning amendment and a zoning map amendment. So.
Okay, I see Patty raised his hand, so you could put him on.
Yes. He also said in the Q&A, the only MDR2 zoning district in Dobbs Ferry is Palisade Street.
Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Yeah, Michael, the Maple is MDR1, and MDR2 was set up, differently. Thanks. If I can, I'm going to try and go for 3 minutes. First, thanks very much for doing this. I know it's taken a long time since I submitted the letter in September 2019 requesting that you consider these changes, but I understand the changes like these can be complicated. 2 sentences for background. When the village created the MDR2 zoning district in 2010, it was not to reduce the intensity of development within that neighborhood. To the contrary, it was to recognize the fact that as a component of our downtown, the Palisade Street neighborhood offered an opportunity to provide that missing middle form of housing that's needed for diversity in communities like Dobbs Ferry. It gives us more feet on the street. It gives us the ability to have apartments. It's an integral part of the community, and it helps us be more diverse. This encourages our orderly and appropriate growth in the neighborhood. The village created, they created the MDR2 zoning district to do that. The only place that this exists in Dobbs Ferry is on Palisade Street. The changes that you're considering this evening, or in a couple of weeks, I guess, are basically to correct numbers on the charts and the zoning ordinance that interfere with accomplishing those goals. The numbers that were kept in the MDR2 zone in 2010 were the same as MDR1. And if you picture that the MDR2 zoning district allows 1 unit per 800 square feet, and MDR one allows 1 unit per 2,500 square feet, it doesn't make sense that the site coverage of the building would be the same for the two zoning districts. It's just mathematically, it doesn't really work out. You know, I think the planning board has done a really thorough job on not only figuring out how what changes are appropriate, but then establishing the design guidelines. I think, I mean, that was a brilliant move because this is such a different zoning district than the rest of the village. It's actually much more similar to the downtown, but we don't want to see, you know, retail use coming onto that. While I would have liked to have seen the number for building coverage a little bit larger, the number that the planning board has recommended is workable. As you noted, it doesn't make every building or every property compliant. I think it's, I think 7 will still be non-compliant, but that's out of 48 properties. There is one change that is inconsistent, I think, with both the intent of the vision plan and the zoning ordinance, and that is on page 3 in your document that you put together for this meeting, and it pertains specifically to table B3. Table B3 was intended as a chart applicable to the OF zoning district to prevent overly large single-family homes from being built on building lots that were significantly larger than the minimum lot area required in any particular OF zoning district. I guess effectively, as an example, it would mean that a house being proposed on a 10,000 square foot lot in, say, an OF6 zoning district where 5,000 square feet is required for a minimum lot size, the house can't have the 27% building coverage that the OF6 allows. Since 10,000 square feet is the minimum lot area of the OF4 zoning district, the maximum building coverage can't exceed the 22% standard applicable to an OF4 zoning district since the lot is that size. I think that all makes sense, and I think it should be kept as it is. The change that I believe is not appropriate is expanding table B3 to apply to zoning districts that are not single family districts. The table should remain unchanged, but perhaps be relabeled to be clear that it's only applied to the OF zoning district. You know, where the MDR2 zoning district, where this affects the MDR2 zoning district is the suggestion that the sliding scale on table B3 would be applied to MDR2, that somehow it would be in the range of single family homes, which there aren't, you know, MDR2 is a standalone district. There's no, it doesn't even really relate to MDR1. It could have had its own completely different designation. It doesn't fit in with sliding scales. I also think that the design guidelines that are proposed give the MDR2 zoning district all of the kind of tools that the village needs to control what gets built. So I think, you know, by having it both that and the table B3, I just think it creates confusion, and it becomes one of those things where you're starting to get to fractions of percentages, which I don't think is what you want in good planning. In deference to Michael's comment, which I think is a very real one and a concern, perhaps there needs to be a specific guideline for the MDR1, I mean the MDR2 zoning district, that says if you're, let's say, a 7,500 square foot lot or smaller, or maybe even go down 5,000 square feet or lower, because 1/3 of the lots are smaller than 5,000 square feet, you have a specific percentage that you're allowed regardless of what size the lot is. But then if you're bigger than that, that number doesn't just keep going up. So it wouldn't be staying at, say, 40%. It would be a percentage of what you are over. So what it would do is it would be, you could do almost the same thing. Say it's, you know, 50% of lot area less than 5,000 square feet, but then only 20% for any lot area exceeding 5,000 square feet. I think you'd accomplish what you want with a very clear, you know, somebody coming in would know exactly what the code says, and it's not interpreting those sliding scales, which aren't set up to relate to the MDR2 zone.
I'd like to ask that you send that to me. It's hard to analyze on the fly. So if you could send that to me in a brief and somewhat concise email, I will review it and get back to you.
Brief and
That was
concise,
my,
not my middle names, Michael, but do the
It
best.
I have to work really hard on it.
It needs to go, it needs to go to the clerk's office so we can get it in the
yeah, let's
record.
go to the clerk's office,
I'll
then we
submit
get
it to the
village
village,
planner.
and I'll make sure Michael gets it right away by emailing it to him.
Right, and we can have the village planner look it over.
Yes.
And the planning board comment on it.
Yeah. And the building inspector, these were his changes. So.
Right. The main thing is, I think it's great that you're doing this, and I really appreciate it. It's, it's good.
Okay, guess we lost Patty. Okay,
No,
so,
I kicked him off because I thought he was done talking.
okay, I think he made his point. So we'll look forward to his comments and we'll have it. So is there a motion? Anybody else want to speak from the public?
No, Mayor, no one else has their hand raised.
Okay, so is there a motion to adjourn this public hearing to our next meeting, which I believe is June 22nd?
22nd.
Trustee Durazi, second. Trustee Patino, all in favor? Okay, so we're going to put this over till then, and we have some work to do before we pass all of this.
Mhm.
Okay, I think that brings us to courtesy of the floor. Is that correct? Anybody here from courtesy of the floor? Anybody other than Patty here for courtesy of the floor?
I'm sorry, this has nothing to do with any of those things, but I just wanted to put it on radar. We're trying to get a $70,000 grant. For the village, it's something that actually I think people from the Sustainability Task Force will be meeting with Richard tomorrow to talk about. And we are 200 points short of the number that we need to qualify for the 70,000. We're also, my understanding is there are only a certain number of communities that this is available to, and there's only one left. So we would need to move very quickly to try and get it. I think there's a relatively simple way we can get 200 points, but it would necessitate something that you as the Board of Trustees would do. I think it's simple. It's to adopt New York State's standard application process for solar collectors. They've got a format. If your community adopts that, then you get 200 points. So what I'm going to do is I'll bring copies of all of that to Richard tomorrow. And I just wanted to have it on your radar so that, if this comes up at the next meeting, it won't be the first time you've heard about it. Obviously, I tried to reach Ed, but I guess he's out for a couple of days. And we have not yet adopted this. So it would be a way for us to probably improve our process with solar, while also getting 200 points that gives us a potential of $70,000 in a grant. And it's a much cheaper solution than buying an electric vehicle right away, which I think we've already decided we don't have the extra money to get at this point.
Okay, well, which you will put back to us. Thank you. Okay, hearing nobody else for courtesy of the floor, let's move on to action item number 1, which is a referral from the planning board for approval of conversion of 3 retail spaces to residential at 398 Ashford Avenue. We did receive a memo from the village planner dated June 1st, 2021, laying out all the concerns that she had, all the issues that must be addressed before we really can take any definitive action on this. I know that the developer is here and he has a comment. I think right? Is that correct? Do I see him? Yeah. Before you put him on.
If that planning memo hasn't been sent to Mr. Rothbard, it should be, so.
Right, so David, before you actually speak, I just want to see if there's any clarification on this from Richard or Laura Lee.
I don't. It just appears to me that there's additional items that need to be discussed and vetted. So It's a preliminary discussion at best, I would think.
Okay. Does the Board of Trustees have any questions or comments at this time? Okay, David, then the floor is yours for 3 minutes.
Okay. Can you guys hear me? See me?
Yes. We hear you.
Can't see you.
Okay. Thanks for the time. So number one, Laura Lee, thank you for realizing that that this memo was not shared with the applicant. I think there's, you know, and this is not the first time, so I'm mentioning this for the sake of all the other applicants that will follow me. I think it's critical that the village consultants share the memo with the applicant. That's number one, so that the applicants have a chance to even either make the necessary changes in advance of the meeting, so that they're well prepared, but B, so they can at least review it and respond even at the meeting. So luckily I logged on, you know, an hour ago and clicked on this link and saw a memo that was not shared with me, which is, you know, not very efficient, if I may say. So for the, you know, I think you guys are doing a lot of great work. There's a lot of projects, but if we can streamline that process for all the other applicants so that they get the memos, and maybe even that they get them in enough time to actually, you know, submit. Maybe it should be 5 days before they have to submit to the board, so they can actually respond. Because sometimes with the planning board, I'll get the memo the day of, and it's kind of not even enough time to review it, and all the applicants, we lose time month after month by not having enough time to actually respond. So maybe just a recommendation that you guys can think about. Maybe there's some sort of a schedule that can be implemented where the consultants kind of have to get their memo in with enough time for the applicant to respond. Just an idea.
It's a valid suggestion. I understand, and I can definitely understand your complaint, and we have to work on the approval process so that we can avoid situations like this.
I
so
appreciate
David,
that.
I don't know if you had time to review it and comment on it. We're not going to make any decisions today, obviously, but if you want to have some kind of input, you certainly can tonight, and we'll certainly give you an opportunity to respond in writing.
Thank you. So number one, yeah, I think a lot of these comments have actually been addressed because Han Engineering has made these comments before, and there is a lot of redundancy between the comments from the planner and the comments from the engineer that have been addressed and updated, and there's quite a bit of overlap. So a lot of these comments have actually been raised at the planning board. They've been addressed on the plans, and now they're kind of showing up again in another memo, and I'm not sure the best way to address that, the duplicate comments from two different consultants.
The planner's just recently been appointed, so if you've addressed the comments on the plans, it wouldn't have been included in this substantive memo from her. But at this point, in order to proceed, we're going to need an environmental assessment form for you. There's going to be a necessary referral to the county because of your proximity to the highway. So, you know, that essentially is will have to be a significant reason to pause in order to get a complete application in order to make those referrals. And I do know that she had the benefit of Mr. Hahn's memo, or Hahn's engineering's memo as well. So at this point, you know, if you have information that addresses some of her comments, then.
Well, I mean, I do. I'd love, you know, it's taken quite a while to actually get to this point to meet with you guys, and I understand the motivation to kind of move on. And because I haven't had a chance to address this, what I would say is like this, you know, the building and its proximity, this is not a new building, and it's not a new proximity to the highway. We're not going to move the building. We're not going to move the highway. So like an issue like that, how would the board recommend that I address that issue? You know, because like, what does that really do? So that's question number one. I guess I would love to get your feedback on that.
The board doesn't give direction in terms of planning issues. That's incumbent upon the applicant. So if you have specific questions, you should address it to the planning board and/or make your submission, and the board will respond to it. It's not for the board to make suggestions about a particular plan.
And Mr. Rothbard, I know you made an initial presentation to the board before its referral to the planning board, and you understood that the Board of Trustees was excited about the concept of rehabbing this building, and certainly everyone's in favor of, bringing this back to a usable, logical space. And, they're excited that you want to take the time and do this investment. So right now we just are trying to cross T's and dot I's to be sure that we can legally, under the constraints of the law, move this forward in time. And
okay. So with that said, I think there's kind of two main issues that I'd like to bifurcate if possible. What I'm really asking for is, and the referral from the planning board was to recommend the change of use. The change of use is really why I'm here. The questions around the memo with parking and how it's going to be paved and stormwater are all things that are addressed and can be further addressed on the actual on the site plan or the stormwater plan, etc. But what we're trying to establish from this board is A, can the board approve the change of use from commercial to residential? B, what would that pile up be so that we can move forward with all the other things and cross those other dots? And but right now the objective is to be able to at least get approval for that change of use, because the parking and things like that are all are all like kind of like in the weeds to a certain extent. There are issues, but I'm not expanding the size of the building. I'm not changing I'm not changing anything that's other than just, are we calling it an office or are we calling it a unit? And that's what we're trying to establish here. And that has an effect on, there's X amount of parking spaces that a commercial space requires. There's X amount of parking spaces that a residential space requires. And how do we reconcile that difference in order to approve the change? So I understand there are other questions, around, could we put spaces in front of the building or not? From what I understand, the referral to this board was to request the approval of the change of use and to be able to move forward on that front.
this board has the jurisdiction to approve the site plan. The referral was from this board, the Board of Trustees, to the Planning Board for its recommendation. So now it is back here, but before we can schedule a public hearing on the site plan, we need to have a complete application and we need to have clarity in terms of the environmental aspects, the referral aspects, and what exactly you're proposing on the site. If in fact you only need to show, I think the general consensus was this board understood that you were going to be converting it to residential units. I don't think that's a question. And the board is here, they can correct me if I'm wrong. So this board has the ultimate decision making. It's not going back to the planning board. Again, you're here now, we need a complete site plan application, and then the board can move forward from there.
Let me just ask a question, because according to the memo, the 3 additional dwelling units require a minimum of 600 square feet for each residential dwelling unit. And according to the memo, the unit proposed on the ground floor, they do not meet this minimum. So would it be, we would be tasked with approving that variance, or does that have to go to the zoning board to approve that variance?
The zoning board would be asked if the site plan will stay exactly as it's shown on the plans. The zoning board will be needed because the impervious surfaces are too extensive, according to your code. So that would be the variance they would need from the zoning board. But you should not be sending this to the zoning board until you're sure the site plan is appropriate.
What I'm asking you is,
and the waiver on the size of the units really is within your purview.
That's what I was asking. Okay, so that's
Yes.
our, okay.
Yeah.
Our purview is not only that waiver, but it's also the change of use. So typically a zoning board would approve the change of use and the waiver, but in this case, we are doing that via the site plan. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, and the zoning board will be asked to address the
Just
impervious
impervious
surfaces.
Okay.
Unless the site plan can be amended so it does not exceed the impervious surfaces. So it is the nitty gritty that this board needs on the parking, how many spaces, where they'll be located, what's the extent of the pileup. I think they were willing to give a pileup, but we're not really certain how many spaces will be needed to including in the pileup, because that would be a condition of your approval eventually.
Okay. It kind of threw me a little for a loop here. So so my next step is for me to connect with the new consultants. Is that the idea here, and address those issues?
Yeah, I think that gaining a benefit from directly from the consultant would be helpful, and also being sure that the consultant and the building inspector understand which code. There's a question on the parking. Is it just you're required to show parking on the new units, or are you required to show parking for the whole, there's an interpretation question there as well, that she's just asking for clarification from the building department. So yes, it would now be the applicant working with the town officials to be sure that the site plan you propose is exactly right. And especially important is the environmental assessment form. That's going to be needed because we can't send the documents, including the site plan, to the planning board and the county until we have, a complete site plan application.
Did no one tell him to do a secret before?
No.
I mean,
No.
wouldn't that have been something? Wouldn't that have been something from like when we first looked at it?
No, because the site plan is still morphing, and until you have the site plan set, you really don't know how to answer all of the questions in the EAF. And the EAF is an online form, absolutely. But the limits of disturbance, all of those questions, you want to make sure they're accurate for purposes of the environmental assessment form. And an environmental assessment form is mandatory for any site plan application.
Yeah, and it's a responsibility of an applicant to determine what documents and what approvals are required.
And I think, again, it came in as a concept. The concept was sent to the planning board. The planning board is recommending you move forward with the concept to get a site plan. And, they're recommending that this is a great conversion to be used as these dwelling units.
Okay. I'm not going to take up more of your time. I will connect with the consultant and see what we can do to reconvene on this.
Thank you, David. I know it sounds discouraging, but we really do appreciate your interest in this project and moving forward with it. So please bear with us, and we can come up.
Okay. I appreciate your support. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Okay, action item number 2 is a discussion of the July 4th, 2021 waterfront park rules and guidelines. Kendra, is Kendra still here? Yes, she is. Richard, do you want to take the lead on this and go from there?
Well, we sent out a recommendation in terms of a couple of suggestions at the waterfront park. Currently, there's been some discussion about removal of the grills. We were not in favor of that. I think the community sees a benefit of being able to go down there. There was also a discussion, we had suggested having an increased fee for non-residents. I think currently, and Kendra can correct me, it's $100 for 4 hours. We were suggesting that it be $250 for non-residents. We also suggested a rate for the use of the stage if someone wants to use that as well. And then there was also been some discussion about limiting the number of events down there. We didn't see that as a problem at this time. So we'd rather keep that open and maybe revisit it after this year when we have a better idea what the real post-COVID world brings us. So Kendra, I'll turn that over to you. Have additional thoughts?
I do not have anything additional to add at this time.
So that was really our recommendation on the waterfront. It was contained in a memo and in an email. And then the second thing was Kendra had done another
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
On the waterfront, just make an observation. So the rental areas, so the stage, we don't make any kind of differentiation between residents and non-residents. Is there a reason specifically for that? Because it does seem, because our residents are paying for the maintenance and upkeep, that it seems that we might want to reflect that in terms of some difference in the fees, as you do with the events.
So Kendra, I'll defer to you for that. There was some public funds that were put into that park, I guess, so there's a limitation in terms of the differential, right?
Correct. So for the stage area, you would like to see a non-resident and a resident fee? Is that what you're suggesting?
I'm suggesting we should consider it, and maybe you already have, and it's not a good idea or it's impossible, but I just think it's a nicer thing to do for our residents who, again, are paying, their taxes are supporting the upkeep of the park.
I think it's something we should definitely look at as well.
Any other comments?
Yeah, some of the local businesses use that stage, exercise classes and things like that. Would this apply to them as well? Is it so for every instance of a, workout class, would the local business have to pay this $200 fee?
No, I don't think it would apply to them.
Okay, so it's events.
It would be the weddings and the big birthday parties and stuff like that.
Okay, good. Yeah, as I think that would be, sort of overly harmful to, the groups that use it, the karate and bar and those kinds of things.
I agree.
Well, do we want to pick, should we pick a fee for the rental areas for residents and non-residents? And then would we be in a position to move forward with this?
But if we just matched what we're doing for the, I don't know, 100, 200 or something like that, I could go either way. I don't have a strong opinion about that.
I mean, maybe we do 150 and 250 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't have a strong feeling about it either. Maybe. So we can start with that and see how that goes. Chris, do you have any suggestions?
I just want to know what exactly is recommended as the fee.
I think we recommended, Kendra. What do we recommend? Leave the resident at 100 and the non-resident was what, 250 or 200?
We recommended it to be 250 for a birthday party or for an event. In regards to the stage, maybe make it 250 as well. And then resident would be 150 because they use electricity down there.
That seems very fair.
I otherwise agree with all the recommendations from your letter from earlier today. So.
I just wonder, Kendra, because it was a very heated, I shouldn't say very heated, but it was a just great discussion about the barbecues and whether they should be there or not there, allowed or not allowed. I understand why we want them, and that a lot of people in the community, especially people who maybe live in apartments, wouldn't have access to a grill other than at waterfront. But is there a way to monitor how much use they actually get?
I think if we had somebody down there every weekend, then we could monitor it. Right now, they're currently closed.
Because of COVID?
Yeah, we haven't opened them back up yet.
I mean, would it make sense to have, people have to sign up to use a barbecue and there'd be some nominal fee for residents and a higher fee for non-residents? Or again, is that too much administration?
Well, prior to COVID, you didn't have to pay. There's no fee to use a barbecue.
That's right.
Correct.
I personally feel that reopening them is okay, and I don't think we should exclude any. I don't think it should be residents or non. I think I think we should open the barbecues and allow people to use them. That's my thought about this.
No, I just meant more so
for people who don't have a backyard, and all the people who live downtown, use it quite often. So.
I agree.
But wasn't there issues before COVID about the barbecues and the amount of garbage that caused in the waterfront? And then we had to increase staff to clean up after the barbecue messes. So that I thought was what we were talking about before. It's not safety or money or anything. It's just the actual DPW work that has to be done because we have barbecues. And so, I mean, I don't know what the discussion was with the rec commission, and I yield to their recommendation, but I guess I would want to know if it was like tight and we should be considering it here, or if it was like overwhelmingly in support
No,
of
they-
keeping them.
They were split.
I remember attending a meeting where this was such a major concern. So Kendra, can you share with us what changed in terms of the division? Because the last time I heard we wanted to remove the grills because we identified them to be one of the major problems at the waterfront.
Some people did not want to get rid of them because they saw them as a great use for the downtown residents and for the Dobbs Ferry residents. And some others wanted to get rid of them because of the garbage problem.
But I think,
And so that I would just say that
right, they want to remove some of them instead of having whatever there are 6 there, maybe leave 3 or 2 there, but to reduce maybe the garbage or the pickup. I don't know if that's significant enough.
I think
Jen,
that
do you have any
eliminated,
thoughts from the DPW's perspective about, cleanup and the level of garbage that comes on a nice weekend?
It's definitely gone up since COVID. So the usage is way up. It takes them a few hours on a Saturday, Sunday, Monday when they come in to clean it all up. And the bathrooms have been another issue. They've been a disaster.
And I know we were having problems with, they would dump the coals in the grass and it would kill the grass in the area. So, and there's always more, there's always more garbage when people are eating and drinking and, down at the waterfront. So there was a lot of garbage down there.
We had also talked at some point about changing those garbage cans so they're not just those little holes, so it's a bigger hole that could get more utilized by people when they have group gatherings or whatever down there. I don't know where that conversation went, or if we need to find money in the budget this year or next year to do it, but I think it would make sense and it would probably help the DPW.
I guess that's the only thing that I would say is up to our purview, where like if I was just looking at it from a recreation standpoint, I would say, yeah, grills are great. They're great for people who don't have grills and want to come downtown or at the waterfront and use the grills. But if we need to take the whole picture into account as the board and the impact it has on the services, I just would want us to make sure that we're taking that into account since
But one of the issues that we were having is that we were not trying to limit it really to the residents. The problem was visitors that would come in and overtake them from the residents. That was another problem that we also discussed. So the waterfront has been a problem for a very long time. And if this is an opportunity for us to establish some changes, keeping up the same thing that has been part of a problem, I don't think that it is beneficial to anybody.
Well, I don't think we can tell people that non-residents are not allowed to use it because we have taken state money. But maybe there is a way that and I think the committee was talking about having people reserve it in advance. But, that unless they put signs up on top of that, this is reserved for the Smith family, or unless you have a person who's there, then it's going to be a problem. It is odd because I think in the city you pay $50 and you get your grill, and no one seems to take over your grill, but they do have staff there. So I don't know. I mean, I hate to have to hire someone to be there as a person, but we did talk about that, right? Having someone there in the morning to ensure that everything was done properly, and then they can leave sometime in the early afternoon. But that's, it's another expense. But then, maybe we could charge for the grills, although I really hate, to me, the grills are important because there's a whole slew of people who don't have access to a grill in their backyard. And I think we as a community should keep that open to our residents. But as Maura points out, maybe non-residents were using it. But then again, I don't want to discriminate against anyone using it if they do a proper procedure.
Can we set something up in terms of like maybe a limitation of time, Kendra, where there will be people that will be able to enjoy it during certain times, like somebody will have it in the morning and then by 2:00 in the afternoon, then it would be another time. There would be a fee affiliated with it. And this way we can open it up more for more people to be able to take advantage of the grills.
I feel like that'll be hard to enforce unless you have somebody down there all day long and kind of like with a list of who has it when.
I think
already
we
had
could start with
trouble.
more garbage cans. So that there's less of a mess, and see where that takes us. I think all the solutions present a whole slew of other problems in terms of enforcement, and so I see your point, but I also see that it creates its own set of problems. So if trash is the biggest problem, can we address that through additional cans or a couple less grills or a couple less tables, like some way to mitigate it? That doesn't.
Are people
Yes,
cleaning out the grills? Are they cleaning the grills after they use them?
I mean, I don't want to complicate the conversation, but I think Kendra's been looking for someone who could act as a park ranger, who could sort of look after the park and follow up. She's had a problem identifying that person. And we also have a problem, I don't want to like make it more complicated than it already is, but we also have a problem with the bathroom and the cleanliness in the bathroom. And this apparently is an ongoing daily event now, Kendra, not just on the weekends. So we're kind of struggling to figure that one out as well.
I think having a park ranger or something is a great idea, but how do we pay for it? So people might have to pay for the grills and, you know, maybe we could up some of the fees down. I don't know.
But if we do it part-time with a, summer staff in the rec department, it's a lot less expensive.
Yeah, but it's still an expense.
It still is an expense.
It's hard to find someone for the role. They've tried, and you're asking like a young person, typically like a college student, someone to enforce things, and the police have trouble enforcing the tables. That when we had the permits for the tables for parties, and people, there were a lot of issues. So I think it's going to be really difficult to do that, and it's going to be difficult for them to actually enforce usage. I'm okay with leaving the grills for free at first come first serve, but I was just trying to think of things, if they're not really used, if they're only used like 20% of the time, then maybe the point is we don't need them. But if they're used all the time, like every weekend, then they are a good idea. That was my point. And then I think we need to fix the garbage cans so they're more friendly to bigger things in the cup.
Yeah, I think setting policy, I think if we decide, let's leave it first come, first serve, and leave it like that. And then I think that, the DPW could just do bigger garbage cans, or I don't know what the enforcement is of the bathroom. I really don't know why that's changed and gotten worse. So are we okay with leaving it first come, first serve for the grills for now? Okay. And then we come up with a fee. Is it, what do we say, 150 for residents and 250 for non-residents?
Yeah, as they proposed.
For the stage area, right? We weren't going to change the fee for residents for like just the parties. Correct?
Correct.
Okay.
We don't have to vote on this, right, Laura Lee? This is
No, these are policies, but the fees you're going to vote on coming up, because we need to get the rec fees in your master fee schedule. So you'll see the next item on the agenda is to adopt a revision to your master fee schedule to include the fees that you're determining today, plus others.
okay. And just to go back, I don't see a reason, unless someone could tell me the law, it hasn't changed. Can we open the grills up as of Saturday? Is there a problem with that?
Are we going to establish a fee for the grills, or we're just going to let them free and first come, first serve?
Right, free, first come, first serve.
Unless, are they included with the rental for parties of the picnic table? And I'm sorry, I don't know. Are there grills at each of the picnic tables? So when you rent for a birthday party, the grill is included with that?
There is one near those picnic area, near the picnic table. So that one is included. All the others are kind of throughout the park.
Okay, thanks. I'm sorry.
Okay, so can we open it this weekend? Is that, or as soon as, whenever you can? I know DPW, Kendra, I would just think if, Richard, you could coordinate that. If there's no reason for not keeping it open, we can just move forward with opening it.
We can open them. We can open them tomorrow. That's fine.
Okay. All right, so let's move over to matters action requiring action. Agenda item number 3 is a discussion of Gould Park pool fees. I know Kendra, you sent us something on it, and do you want to just talk a little bit about it?
I can. So we had a very large crowd this weekend at the pool. And so my concern is that allowing 11,000 residents to come in and pay the day pass will be overwhelming to the pool, and it will make it very overcrowded. One of my other concerns was that people who already purchased memberships might change their minds if they can just pay a daily fee. But with that in mind, I also know that it's a concern to allow residents to have access to it. So my idea was to give 3 days where people can come in and pay the daily fee, $10 for adults and $5 for kids. And I can plan to have the staff there to deal with the amount of people. But I would also love to hear your feedback on it.
Can we put a limit on the number of daily passes that we give out?
We could, but it might be difficult with depending on how many members come in that day, because members can also bring guests. So like this weekend, we had 44 guests on Sunday and 42 on Saturday.
How many memberships have you sold now? Is it still 400 or is it more?
497 as of today.
And one of the issues with the pool is that you're limited to the number of people that can attend at any given moment. And I believe, Kendra, you can correct me, but it's 400 and something. And this weekend you had close to 700, right, on a particular day. So we were sort of like thinking we should monitor it this year and see how it goes, you know, before instituting something.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I know that for some people who aren't here on a regular basis or from a financial situation, it's difficult to pay for the membership, but I do think it's almost impossible really to properly monitor daily passes. You had a day like last weekend and people show up, there'd be long lines, people would be disappointed when you turn them away. I think it's almost worse. So at best, maybe we could do what you suggest, do 3 days, see how that goes, and then monitor it next year. And I do know that there are people who can't afford it. There's Spring, who has helped out a large number of families, offered them economic aid also. So I would go along with your recommendation.
I think we should also just talk about how a daily pass wouldn't be like you just come today and pay $10 and you can come use the pool if you're a resident. I mean, there's going to be an additional fee associated with it if and when we decide to do that. So it's still going to be, if I had to guess, more expensive than people want it to be. What they do is their tax dollars being paid for a community pool that they should be able to use whenever they want, right? There's a difference between having to pay $60 or $100 or $150 for to access the ability to have a day pass. I think we should be transparent about that.
Yeah. I know I have gotten some emails from some people who wanted to who expressed their concern, and I'm not sure if anyone is here who wants to speak about it, but certainly if you're here listening to the meeting and you'd like to address us, even though it's not a public hearing, I know that you sent the emails and you have concerns. So I know that I see Ada raise her hand, so you could promote her and let her speak. Welcome, Ada. Can you just tell us your full name and address?
Sure. My name is Ada Menaker, and I'm at 79 Florence Avenue in Dobbs.
Okay. You have 3 minutes.
All right. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate you giving me a chance to speak up. So we've lived in Dobbs for the past 6 years. We loved using the old pool. I have a 7-year-old and a toddler, so we're very excited about the pool. You know, you've done a great job putting it together, and I thank you for all your hard work. The pool was built for the community with community funds, and the whole community should be able to use it. And I think the current fee structure is disrespectful to village residents who, for whatever reason, you know, don't expect to use the pool frequently, but still want to make use of an amenity that our tax dollars paid for. So we would use the pool a half dozen times over the course of the summer because of our other plans. And that comes out to close to $100 per pool use, which is it's ridiculous. And so, yeah, we're going to go use the county pools or use the private pools. And so the incremental revenue that you guys could be getting from us is just going to go to the county. I think, I'm a financial analyst. I do this for a living. There has to be a way where you can either let people sign up for daily passes or monitor the daily, the per use, the daily users, without making people feel like, oh, we got this great pool and you can only use it if you have $500, which some people don't, or if you're going to use it all the time and make it financially worthwhile. I really wish you guys would do some analysis and figure out how to make some type of daily use possible. I understand that the pool got very crowded. It was a hot weekend. My babysitter was there. She told me that, it's actually not so bad. But, there's a lot of discussion on Facebook about the fact that people see this as unfair. And there are a lot of people who would use the pool if there was a daily pass.
Thank you for your input. And I think we struggle with that. How do we make it work? So I think we would like to make it available to as many people as possible, but how do we make it work? So.
What do we need to determine tonight?
We were just, we sent you a memo that dealt with the questions that were raised about the fee and whatever. So it's a question whether you want to try to institute daily fee today, or if you want to try the 3 days that Kendra suggested during the summer. I am concerned about capacity when you tell me there's almost 700 people that came to the pool one day this weekend, and it could only accommodate 400 and change. So that's a concern. And also, if you institute knowing the equities, and I definitely am in favor of making it affordable, but then you have to also acknowledge the fact that you sold a bunch of family passes and then introduce the day pass. That's why we suggested monitor it for this year, and let's see what we can do for next year based on the use.
I like the idea as recommended to have, I don't know whether it's 3 days or 4 days or 5 days during the summer. Maybe if we were going to add other days, we could make them weekdays or half days, but to try the experiment to see how it works, what the considerations are, and then, think more broadly next year. So that would give people who can't afford it, a family pass, a chance to get to the pool, but not overwhelm the recreation staff.
Yeah, I agree that we should, it's a problem that we have ongoing. I don't think right now is the time to change the policy and add a day pass when we don't know how that's going to impact everything else. But I do like the idea of having a test case where we have a few days, we highlight it as, I don't know, I'm not going to come up with a name right now, but like you guys do that. I think that probably is the best way forward, because and if there's something that we can figure out by next year, then we will work to solve it by then. But like doing it last minute like this could just cause way more problems for the whole staff and for the cleanliness of the pool. And it's just not the time right now to make that change.
I also think it's important to just remind everyone that Gould's never had a daily pass, right? So this would be completely new. And I know when I first moved here, I didn't join the pool because it wasn't cost effective for me to get a membership for my family for this, like Ms. Maneker said, for the few times a summer I was going to use it. It just didn't make sense for me. So I just didn't join. I think it's great that we can consider it, and maybe going forward next season, this is the first season the pool's open and we had COVID, we just came off of that, and testing out how these memberships, like 500 memberships, what the actual usage is every weekend this summer will give us a good guiding place to go for next summer. If daily passes will be more feasible, because we won't have as many concerns about capacity and stuff, because we'll have the data to measure it against.
I think
would
that
just-
one thing that we can benefit from is, as Larry, I believe, was the person that was sharing before with the recommendation of Richard, is if we have a little bit more options, because at this point, it's like you either sign up for the whole membership for the whole entire season, or you don't. As the resident just shared before, if you go 5 times, it comes out to be like $100 per visit. If we create a few more options that they're a little bit more flexible, like if we have a limitation of, okay, I want to buy 5 entries to go into the pool for the season and pay a fee for that, then you will choose when you want to go and have a limitation on that as well. But at least you don't have to pay this amount for the whole entire season, and you just be locked to, like, I want to go to the pool 5 times and I will pay a fee for those 5 times. Just more options.
I agree that there should be more options. I'd also like to point out that while this is very problematic, I think we have to recognize the fact that we haven't had this problem before. It's because we have such a spectacular pool that now everybody wants to be a member of it. So, be careful what you ask for. So it's, there's the saying, it's a curse and a blessing. But I do believe, I've always thought that there should be some sort of day pass for residents, because if you've got a family, that's one thing, and you're taking care of your kids, and you send them down to babysit or whatever, that works. But for people who don't have kids, or who can't afford those fees, we really should see if there's some way we could come up with some options to make it economically viable for as many people as possible.
The problem is we've already only sold it as families, and people have already bought it on that assumption that that's their own.
I know we
option.
can't do anything this year. Yeah, I know. I get that. Yeah.
Okay. So then I think I would go with the recommendation as Kendra laid out and Richard laid out in his email. And, we can decide if we want to do 3 days or 5 days to see, how that works out.
Is there something else that we want to maybe offer? Like the weekends are busier. Is it possible that maybe doing something just on weekdays only, Kendra?
Meaning people could pay by the day during the week?
Yeah, something like that. Or maybe have a max on it. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. Because it's really the weekends when it gets the most crazy, and if you have like a 90-degree day again. But the weekdays, I imagine you have less people using the pool, right?
It's been pretty crowded now, but I don't know, like, once July comes and people go away, how it will be.
Okay.
I would like the idea of, if we were going to add a couple of days, to add 2 weekdays, say, Kendra, when you think it might be less busy, less pressure. I think that also, people have bought the family memberships, but if they know the day pass is only a few days this year, that'll also let us test, how the demand works. I like the way you laid it out. We do have to figure out fees for it, but.
Is the rec department doing any of those days that they used to do at the old pool? Those family fun days? Yeah.
We've talked about it. We just haven't put anything in place yet. Like right now on Friday nights, we're going to do noodle nights, where you can bring your noodles or use ours and float around the pool, which will be kind of fun for everyone. But yeah, other than that, we haven't really looked at or confirmed anything.
I think that's a better way, though. If we could add a couple of weekdays to your proposal of the Saturday and 2 Sundays. Maybe do 3 weekdays to get a little bit more option.
Yeah, I don't think we can do anything significant this year, because I think, as Christy, we're going to have unintended consequences if we do something, and next, it's just going to end up hurting some other people. So, you know what? I'm going to leave it to the professionals, Kendra and Richard, to come up with days that will, make it available to residents who don't have the family pass, and then we can come up with a plan, see how it works, and then next year we can decide if we want to go forward with a option type of plan. Okay.
Sounds good.
Thanks. And you know what? I realized we did not discuss July 4th. So before Kendra disappears, we should have that. So maybe Richard or Alyssa, you could clarify for me, I still think that if people are not vaccinated, they would have to wear masks and be put in a certain place away from people who are vaccinated. Is that how that works?
I think we're still waiting, right, for the final determination. Lisa, is there any update on that, or Kendra?
I thought as long as you were outside socially distanced, you were able to not wear a mask, but I'm not sure. I feel like it changes every 5 seconds. Every time we turn around, there's a new update.
Kendra, maybe update the board in terms of, you updated that list of who's having fireworks, who's not having fireworks, and what the status is. So
Yes. So Terrytown, Sleepy Hollow, they are doing fireworks this year. Irvington is not doing fireworks. Yonkers is doing something on July 3rd. And Greenberg is still no as of now. And also Ossining is no as of now. The one problem or dilemma that we do currently have is that I did reach out to our fireworks company, and because it is so late in the game, they are currently booked. So we have started reaching out to some others. So we might not actually have the option of having them this year. But I can hopefully have an answer by the end of the week.
All right, well, I guess you should find out first. There's no point in saying we're going to do it if we can't get a vendor to do it.
Yeah, but one of the other options that we did look into was having Joe Rooney down there, let's say from like 12 to 5. He could play music and games for people. People can still come down and picnic and hang out for the day. Try and get some food trucks down there and come up with some other ideas. And that way we're still offering something for the day.
Yeah, I think we should go forward. We'll definitely do that. But why don't you advise us if the fireworks, let's take a consensus of the board. If we can get fireworks, how many people would like us to do the fireworks? You could just raise your hand if you like. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 6. Okay. So why don't you move forward, Kendra, and see if we can do it. But I'd also like us to check the law and what the requirements are. If it's, I thought that there was even if it was outside, I thought there kind of had to be some kind of either testing or separation. I mean, I think Yankee Stadium is outside and they still have to do something as far as segregation or whatever. So we could just look into that.
And Mr. Mayor, the holiday's on a Sunday this year, so it might depend on what day of the week you're interested in doing fireworks. You know, the federal holiday is Monday, the 5th. So the 3rd is Saturday, Sunday, Sunday's the actual 4th. So it could be that the vendors are looking to do alternate days that might open things up.
That's true, Kendra. You can look at that and see.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you. So we up to action item number 4, which is to consider a resolution to amend the master fee schedule to reflect update of Gould Park fees and provide further clarity on building permit fees. So we do have a draft resolution for that. Laura Lee, do you want to shed any light on that?
Sure. It had come to our attention that the building department was having trouble making clear what the fees were for expired building permits and then reapplications. And, there's a multiplier involved. So I reached out to Mr. Manley as your building inspector, and he asked that we include a section just clearly reiterating the text from that section of your code 127.7. And also it came to our attention that the Recreation Commission is tasked with a schedule, a recreation fee schedule, and that hasn't been incorporated up to this point in your master fee schedule. So we've left this resolution very broad, and Liz and I have been working with Kendra to get sort of the master recreation fee schedule, including any changes you made tonight in terms of the waterfront park. And we'll work together to be sure that the Excel spreadsheet now reflects that master schedule prepared under the auspices of your Parks and Recs Commission. And also to be sure that the public is aware of the perils of allowing their building permits to expire and then having to reapply.
Okay, so I'm just gonna read it very quickly, part of it. So now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby adopts the following adjustments to the master fee schedule. Number one, addition of a subsection to include the recreation fee schedule established by the Parks and Recreation Commission as referenced in chapter 68 of the Dobbs-Ferry Village Code at section 68-5 parentheses B. And two, addition of a subsection to include the fees as set forth in chapter 127 of the Dobbs-Ferry Village Code at section 127-7. And it goes on to outline C, an applicant that has a valid unexpired building permit shall be granted an extension of said building permit before it expires for a period of 6 months upon application at a fee equal to 1/4 the original permitting fee or $100, whichever is less. D, an applicant that had a valid building permit but said building permit expired for a period of less than 1 year upon application shall be granted an extension of said building permit for a period of 6 months at a fee equal to 1/2 the original permit. That had E, an applicant that had a valid building permit but said building permit expired for a period greater than 1 year, less than 2 years, shall be granted an extension of said building permit for a period of 6 months at a fee equal to twice the original permitting fee. Is there a motion? Trustee DeRozzi, second. Trustee Nell, all in favor? This resolution passes unanimously. Thank you. Action item number 5 is
Just
to
like
consider.
to point out that I did not vote in favor of that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mike, go ahead. What's your objection to it?
I section E, well, I understand the desire to get people to renew their permits. Section E, I'm just going to give an example. You know, someone could be looking at a $20,000 plus fee here, which historically speaking in Dobbs Ferry, you know, we generally don't have those kind of very high penalizing fees. You know, there are instances where, you know, projects run afoul of, you know, funding and take longer than expected. I don't know. It seems like a bit extreme. So I personally, I vote against this.
We're not changing the substance of the code. We're just putting the text of the code. In other words, if you'd like to make that change, we certainly could draft a revised section and bring forward a local law. You can only change.
Are you saying that this is a fee that's already in place?
Yeah, it exists in 127.7. Yes.
Oh, I apologize. I was not aware of that. I thought this was we were adding these to the fee.
No, we're just making sure they're in the master schedule. You know, we took all of the individual fees out last year in section. Chapter 175 now sends you to a master schedule. And then once a year you vote on that and then you can make changes.
This was not in that master schedule because I reviewed that pretty closely, all the building department fees. There was nothing pertaining to, you know, nothing that would indicate the potential for such a large.
Right. And that's why the building inspector reached out to me to say, you know, I want to make sure that it's clear that the public is clear because you know, it appeared to the public that he was pulling numbers randomly. And so I said, we should get this in the master schedule with the percentages so everybody understands. And so I offered, since we were coming forward with the master recreation fees schedule, to put that in.
So so this has been in practice for some time.
Mm-hmm.
Where did these numbers come from, or where did that calculation come from initially? Or is this something that's sort of developed inside the building department over the years?
Well, it would had to have been enacted by a local law. I can quick call it up to see how long this has been actually on the books.
If a previous board approved this, I'm not gonna try to, you know, have it removed. I was
just going to suggest, why don't we put this over then so we can get more information on it? I thought, you know, if there is issues
we're not making a change. I
understand that.
Yeah, this is actually in your code.
It's in our
Can
code.
can I ask for a clarification on something, Mr. Mayor? I am aware that there has been some issues in terms of construction, of delay of shipment. I personally experienced something like this in my hotel, where there is permits that have expired because the developer cannot get on time the materials to complete the construction. So is this one of the reasons why we extending this 6-month window on existing or expired permits within construction?
Well, I
No,
think-
a
I think that
standard renewal fee is included. You can just renew it depending on your circumstances.
You can
But if
remember
you
for
allow it to
$100, you can
expire,
keep renewing and renewing your permit. This is sort of a penalization for people who don't take the step to renew.
Correct.
So if you don't take the step and you go over by a day, well, then you have to pay a quarter of your initial permitting fee. And that initial permitting fee is the big one. So, you know, when you go to permit, if you're going to build a new house, you might have a $25,000 permitting fee or whatever. So in this instance, if you didn't renew it on time, you went over by one day, you'd have to pay 1/4 of that 25,000. If you went over by a year, but less than 2, you'd pay twice that $25,000 initial permitting fee, which that's the one that seems like, I understand that we could assign a fine to someone who fails to, extend their permit, but maybe that, I don't know, that amount seems excessive. Maybe that's a $5,000 fixed number for someone who doesn't renew their permit, or I don't know, something like that. It just seems.
Laura Lee, tonight we are just trying to put what is already in our code, fees that are already established, into our master code. By putting the idea of the master code is if we put things into the master code, it makes it easier for us to change it. Am I correct?
right? But in this case, since it's in the text, the percentages, you could bring a local law to make this change. It's going to be set forth in the master fee schedule to make it easier for the public to understand the importance of keeping your building permit current.
Can we get information on this and really not vote on this tonight? Because honestly, it's like Michael says, it's kind of new. I would like to know more about it.
That's different than what we're doing. Like, we're just adding this to the master fee schedule so that all the fees are in one place. If you want to talk about changing that fee, that would be a different action item, a different resolution, a different public hearing.
Yes, and we could get Ed to come forward. I see that it was amended in January of 2012 by local law 1 of 2012. That's set forth in the text of your code right now, 127-7 time limits. It was adopted by local law 1 of 2012.
Okay, so if this is already in the code, we're just not doing anything different. But
No.
yes, we can address it going forward. But for this particular issue, where we're just going to vote on this because it's already in the code.
And we already voted on it.
Right. So
6-1.
Mike, do you want to change your vote in light of that or no?
No, I'm good.
Mike, no? Okay, so it's still 6-1.
But thank you for clarifying. And
Okay,
sorry,
yeah.
I didn't realize it was
I'm sorry I'm left to defend this in Ed's absence, but I had reached out because we had received some correspondence from applicants who were up in arms that he was assigning random numbers, which he isn't because it's in the code. So that's all. We were just trying to draw attention to the public so they understood. That's all.
Okay. Let's move to action item number 5, which is to consider a resolution to approve the purchase of furniture for the Embassy Center from National Business Furniture in the amount of $43,651.98. We do have the bills and what you're buying, but maybe you can clarify, Richard or Kendra?
I defer to Kendra on the furniture purchase and to Jeff on the finances.
We are purchasing everything off a state contract. It's tables, chairs, desks, just so we don't have any empty space. And then we can start rentals come fall and our senior programs and community programs.
And, the financing is in place.
I noticed there's no visual to accompany the bill. Were there options that you looked at? I mean, is there any particular reason why you went this? I don't even know what's in here. It's hard to discern just the dollar amounts, but
We looked at so many different things. It would make your head spin. There are some pictures. They weren't like very clear, so we had to kind of Google the different items. But we did look at several different options.
maybe you could just explain why this is, what the spectrum, a little bit about what the spectrum of possibilities were, and then why we're doing this versus another.
These ended up being probably the cheapest of all of the items that we looked at, and the ones that will last the longest based on what we think that the usage will be.
So this is not just lowest bid. There's some sort of picking of, things
For
that.
contract grade, right?
Correct. And we went and looked at different things and called different places to see what they had.
So I assume it's all like steel case, beautiful high-end furniture. Yeah.
It's nice.
You don't have like a Pinterest board, mood board?
We don't.
Inspired?
Probably should have.
I trust you.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve the purchase of the furniture for the Embassy Center? Trustee Nell, second. Trustee Razi, all in favor? That passes unanimous. Action item number 6 is to consider a resolution to approve the budgeted step increase for Gina Bruno, recreation assistant, from grade 5, step 2 to grade 5, step 3, with an annual salary of $52,109.63, is recommended by Kendra Garrison, Superintendent of the Rec Department. In support of that, we have a memo from Kendra dated May 27, 2021. And Kendra, this is a step increase, correct?
Correct, it is.
Okay. So is there a motion to approve this step increase? Trustee Sullivan, second. Trustee Casal, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Action item number 7 is to consider a resolution to approve the budgeted step increase for Kyle Crawford, recreation assistant, from grade 5, step 2 to grade 5, step 3, with an annual salary increase, annual salary of $52,109.63, is recommended by Ms. Kendra Garrison, Superintendent of the Rec Department. We have a memo from her dated May 27, 2021. And Kendra, this is the same as Gina, right?
Correct.
Okay. Is there a motion? Trustee Sullivan, second. Trustee DeRozzi, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Action item number 8 is to consider a resolution to accept the annual MS4 stormwater report. We have the actual report. We have a memo from Jennifer Dorman dated June 1st, 2021, explaining the importance of it and what it does. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Richard or anyone? Okay, is there a motion to accept this report? Trustee Patino, second. Trustee Sullivan, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Action item number 9 is to consider a resolution to declare 6 desks as surplus equipment. We are in receipt of a memo from Jennifer Dorman dated June 1st, 2021, outlining that the desks in question are over 20 years old. They should be declared as surplus. Is there a motion to declare it a surplus? Trustee Nell, second. Trustee Taylor, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Action item number 10 is to consider a resolution to authorize the police chief to sign a renewal of the communication service agreement with Goosetown Communications for a rate of $1,309 per month, effective July 1st, 2021. We have a memo from the chief dated April 26, 2021, and the chief himself is here. So Chief, you want to give us a brief description of what you're talking?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This is just a service agreement we have with Goosetown Communications. They handle the maintenance for our entire radio system in the village. It's an annual contract that has not increased in price again. And so I'm just looking for permission to enter into the new agreement.
Any questions or comments for the chief? Okay, is there a motion to approve this? Trustee Sullivan, second. Trustee Taylor, all in favor? Thank you, chief. Action item number 11 is to consider a resolution to approve audit of claims as submitted and recommended by the village treasurer. In support of that, we have the audit numbers and details. Jeff, is there anything you want to add to this?
No, just a regular audit, unless there are questions.
Is there a motion to approve the audit? Trustee Patino, second. Trustee Sullivan, that passes unanimously. I have to add action item number 12, which is to consider a resolution to extend the authorization to provide financial support to the Dobbsbury Volunteer Ambulance Corps. So is that action item will become number 12. I think we've already passed a motion, I believe, last year, where we agreed to provide funds to the Dobbsbury Ambulance Corps. And this motion, actually, we did it October 13th, 2020, when we approved giving the Ambulance Corps funds not to exceed $20,000 per month for the calendar months of October, November, and December 2020. The totals of the support will be $60,000. From what I understand, the Dobbsbury Ambulance Corps did not expend all of those funds, and there is funds that are left over. And they have contacted us, and they are in need of these funds to meet payroll. So this motion, this resolution, would extend that financial support of $20,000 per month to September 30th, 2021. Where, again, we'll take a look at it. We have been meeting with the Ambulance Corps. We are encouraging people to volunteer. I know it's a very tough time to volunteer, but the Ambulance Corps is desperate for volunteers, and they are also looking for funding. But in the short term, they are in need of money, and we need an ambulance corps. So is there a motion to extend the authorization to provide financial support to September 30th, 2021? Trustee Nell, second. Trustee Sullivan, all in favor? And that passes unanimously.
Mr. Mayor, we do have another item, because today we received word on from General Code about an error that was pointed out by Trustee Taylor about the prohibited use of leaf blowers during certain periods of time. And since this is the period of time when leaf blowers are in use, and as your code is written, it cannot be enforced. If you would set a public hearing for your next meeting to talk about a local law, just to tweak the language to make it more clear that the intent was to prohibit gas-powered leaf blowers during certain periods of time, because as the code is written and was adopted, the general code felt the best way to handle it would be another local law.
But I want to be very specific when we have this public hearing, so that the whole issue of leaf blower law is not called into question. So,
Well, I'd like to raise a related thing on behalf of the STF. One of the things the STF has asked for, which I think is very sensible, is basically to align the local leaf blower laws the landscapers and many residents don't know, well, the residents know which town they live in, but as people go between the lines aren't clear, right? So the suggestion of the STF was to conform our leaf blower timeframe to Hastings, which comes in on May 15th instead of May 2nd, and ends on October 15th instead of September 15th. So that the two villages would be in alignment in terms of the timing. So I wonder if we could include that one provision in this as well. I think it would make sense.
Yes, we can
Okay.
include the parameters as well, but as it was, there was a mistake when it was adopted. It didn't include the word prohibited. So right now it's sort of a nullity and it can't be enforced either way. So if you wanted to set a public hearing, we could circulate a draft local law number 3. And with the assistance of Trustee Taylor, we could make the change in terms of consistency with the neighboring community as well.
Okay, so let's add that to the agenda as action item number 13. And the board will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, June 22nd, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. or as soon thereafter as matter may be heard to receive public comment on a proposed local law to clarify limitations on the use of leaf blowers in the village. Is there a motion to schedule the public hearing?
Thank you.
Trustee Taylor, second. Trustee Sullivan, all in favor? Okay, so that public hearing has been scheduled. Okay. Minutes, any questions, comments? Is there a motion to accept the minutes of the May 25th, 2021 meeting? Trustee Sullivan, second. Trustee Patino, all in favor? That passes unanimously. I think there was only one trustee liaison report, and I think most of us, if all of us, were at that meeting anyway. So the planning board, is that you, Donna?
Yeah, that's it. There was a joint meeting of the planning board and the board of trustees to look at 185, 191 Ashford Avenue. And that seems to be coming along pretty good, and I'm assuming that it will be approved shortly. There was also discussion of the master school plan, and that is coming along as well. Nothing controversial.
Okay. Any other announcements by any of the trustees?
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank Pace University. They did a tremendous job at our affordable housing community forum. I want to thank the mayor for giving the introductory to that. The results, we got a lot of very good input from the residents about affordable housing, what they're looking for, et cetera. And the results of that will probably be up, hopefully maybe next week on the Affordable Housing Task Force website. Another announcement, with the opening of the community center and expansion of senior programs, the Senior Advocacy Committee is looking for new members to help jumpstart a new season for the seniors and for activities at the center. You do not need to be a senior to be a member of the advisory committee. So please, anyone who's interested, please go to the volunteer site on the village website and please sign up. Where some exciting things are coming up, and it'd be great to have more input from more people on this committee.
Thank you, Donna. Any other announcements?
I just want to thank Kendra for everything that she has done in the last few weeks. I know that between the two projects and the fees with the pool, and this is her busy season. So thank you so much, Kendra, for all the extra stuff that you've been doing. So it doesn't go unnoticed.
Oh, thank you.
Rick, if you're still there, and I hate to put you on the spot, I know that we've been getting a lot of complaints and issues about, again, the construction on Ashford Avenue. I just want to make it clear, Rick, you can confirm, we do have police officers on duty trying to direct the traffic, correct?
That is correct. Yes. We have details pretty much every day, and that is covered by police officers, correct?
Okay, and again, that's out of
Is
our
there-
hands as far as the projects go.
That is correct as well.
Is there any way though for us to notify the community as to what streets they'll be working on? Or like when they're starting work on a new street so people are aware that there'll be kind of work there? Because that was a complaint I've heard recently. That nobody just knows and all of a sudden they're just there and you have to be rerouted and stuff.
Do we get notice?
I don't know. I asked
No, Richard, do we
questions.
get notice?
Con Ed is the
sends
one,
But
Con
then
Ed
they
is the
do
one
every-
that sends, right? Michael, Con Ed is the one that sent something in the beginning about Virginia Avenue, but since then we haven't seen anything, and there's many times that you're trying to leave and you have to turn around because that street is closed and then the other one is closed too, so you don't even know how to enter your driveway. So if we can kind of come up with a system that they notify the police department so that we can notify the residents, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, Richard, could we reach out to our contact at Con Ed and see if we can get something tangible?
Yeah, I think Jen and the DPW has a relationship with them. We've spoken to them. I know we've all spoken to them before. We'll reach out again and see if we can get a schedule, And I think there was also a complaint that was received about leaving vehicles idling. I hope they address that. We follow up on everything. But we'll do it again for sure. And I'll speak. Yeah, I'm sorry.
We did ask for an updated schedule to find out when this is going to be over. So we should have that soon. So we'll let you know as soon as we find out.
Thank you, I appreciate it. And if there's
I
no more
wager that the answer is when it's over.
I hope not.
I asked the question actually recently,
not-
and they are done with Virginia, but Ashford continues. So Michael, we have a lot more to enjoy as they continue to pass by. It's,
Yeah, I
it's,
can
it's
imagine.
honestly, we empathize with the residents, At least I know that Michael and I live across from each other and we are experiencing, and Donna is very close to us as well. We hear it at night, we hear it all day. You probably can hear it as I'm speaking. And the other day I was completely black, but my driver was completely black. I couldn't leave. So, we all suffering this whole thing. So with you, so trust me that your complaints don't go unnoticed. We know we're experiencing it too.
That's a good point.
So
The
I think-
two of you are affected by it.
Liz has her hand raised.
Where is Liz? Oh, there she is. Hey, Liz.
Hi. So I just wanted to bring to everybody's attention, we do have on June 22nd, the primary election, where the polls will be open from for the normal times from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Prior to that, Dobbs Ferry is once again going to be a early voting location. And that will take place at the first floor lobby of Village Hall, just outside the police department, where we've always had our voting previously. That begins this Saturday, June 12th. It will run through Sunday, June 20th. For this weekend, just so everybody knows, at least the start times are noon to 5 p.m. The times do vary for the rest of the dates. I will be posting this all on the website tomorrow, so people are aware. In addition to that, we'll be sending out an email blast just to remind people. And I think Elise is going to put a little blurb in the newsletter as well, just so we keep getting that word out. So that's it.
If I made a banner for that, is there somewhere we could hang it? Like we did last year for early voting?
I'm sure.
I looked at the at Cedar and Maine, there's the waterfront music or something is hanging there now, right? But is there anything over at like Stop and Shop?
We cannot authorize the posting of a banner on Stop and Shop. We'd have to get permission from Stop and Shop because it's not village property. We could certainly check with them and do that. We also have the Gould Park fence, which is a popular spot.
Is it empty now though?
Anyone
know?
There might be something up there.
All right.
I'm not sure offhand.
But there's plenty of space, so we can put another
Okay.
one up.
All right, so maybe I'll have one made.
Before I close, I just want to make also two reports really. We The Memorial Day event was held on Memorial Day. It was a very well-attended event. I want to thank Trustee Sullivan for attending. It was a somber event, it was well-attended, and we should never forget the sacrifice that the men and women made on behalf of the military. So maybe next year, I promised everyone that we would have a parade, so let's hope it doesn't rain and we can have a parade next year. But again, I want to thank the veterans who appeared. I want to thank the American Legion. I want to thank the volunteer firefighters who came out in full force. The ambulance corps was there. The Girl Scouts were there. The Boy Scouts were there. One of the Girl Scouts asked me what the mayor does. It took me about 5 minutes to come up with the answer to that question, but you know, it would be good to have maybe the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts come and participate somehow. But I want to thank everyone who participated and took the time out to attend. So thank you. And I also want to say that we had the River Arts over the weekend. I did attend one of the events in Dobbs Ferry, but it was, you know, very well attended. And hopefully next year we'll even do better with the River Arts, getting the word out. So those are two events that happened since we last met. And if there's nothing further, take a motion to adjourn the meeting. Trustee Sullivan, second Trustee Cassell, all in favor.